Hey, welcome here to the Montana Sportscast podcast. Paul Panisco, Bob Ritterod here as we make our way through a wintry afternoon. Bobby, how are you, brother?
Just trying to stay warm in the house. Us old guys. My wife asked me if I was going to get the snowblower out today, and I told her, I says, "Well, I'm not sure you're going to get home on the road, so it doesn't make much difference whether I do or not." So,
Wow, on Valentine's Day, nonetheless. That's
yeah,
brave.
yeah,
That's brave,
I
Bobby.
don't have to cook her supper that way.
Well, as always, thanks for joining us as we get ready to talk about some Frontier Hoop as one final game remaining as far as conference play before we get ready for the tournaments on the horizon. Where would you like to start, Bobby?
Well, let's start with the easy one, Paul. Let's go with the standings on the women's side.
Okay.
Carroll College is clinched it the first place there with that 13-1 record. They're 22-5 overall. Western at 11-3, 23-4 overall. Rocky 10-4, 18-8. Providence is 5-9, 15-12. Tech is a 3-11, 7-17, and Northern is 0-14 and 7-20. But as you wrote in your article, Paul, the women's side of things are pretty simple, pretty well set for the conference tournament.
Yeah, they really are. And the other one I found out, I was talking to Wally Felt earlier today, and Wally even noted that the coaches poll at the beginning of the year that the coaches do, as far as the Frontier goes, was correct, exactly right. The coaches picked it right down the wire as far as how it was going to finish, and uh, we certainly have seen separation all year long. Those top three schools just continue to extend themselves from the other three schools. And they're playing great ball. You know, you look at what Carroll has done, only one conference loss. All five of their losses have come to nationally ranked teams. They're a powerhouse. And it was interesting because they started the conference season off so strong, and it almost felt like, you know, they had their first peak, and then it felt like they, I don't want to say dropped off, but it felt like they almost got within reach of people there again for a few. And at the end of the season, they made it very apparent that no one was going to be playing with them that hard. And Carroll on top of the pile. And then, of course, you know, Rocky and Western just continue to battle. Coach Woolley doing a great job down to Dillon. The Bulldogs of Western playing great ball. You'd have to assume that they have pretty much already kind of assured themselves of a trip to a pod. And the same goes for Rocky, you know, with the crew down there with Coach Keller. Those ladies just continue to play great ball as well. And you'd have to assume, even at this point, that they will also get an invite to a pod somewhere. You know, Carroll will host. I think you can already chisel that one in stone, in my opinion. You know, they'll host one of those 14 pods, but you'd have to assume Dillon or I should say Western and Rocky, both going to get in, but both will have to travel.
Yeah, I think so. I actually think that I was talking with Coach Keller little bit last week, and we kind of expect LC to put in for a pod. You
Agreed.
know, there's possibility that Western or Rocky one of them would maybe go there. The other one possibility would be Westmont. You know, in the other one going down to California. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and we got Chris Mouat coming on, and he is the Raider, and he's going to talk a little bit about rating the teams, being a Raider, and he can give you a little more insight on the pod situation.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing about that, Paul, is those pods are going to be decided before our Frontier Conference tournament happens.
Yep.
So, um, you know, I think it's like you say, I think it's pretty well set in stone. I'm sure that Carroll put in a bid for that pod, and you know, deservingly so. They should get
Mhm.
that pod because, like you say, they're really playing well.
Yeah.
The last round that they have played, you know, against conference teams, they have just dominated, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't. It felt like there for a while that, you know, the other teams were going to catch up to them, and you know, the season is so long, and I hate to quote John Thatcher, but you know, JT always points out that the idea that in his coaching experience, every team has two peaks and two valleys during the season. And maybe Carroll was just kind of in one of their valleys, if you will, through that second trip through, and you know, they weren't beat there, but teams, it felt like, were playing a little bit closer to them, and that was boy, like you say, they turn the corner through that third run, and that is a powerful basketball team playing right now. And they're giving up like 51 a game. Great defense. They're good offensively. They're going to make some noise not only through the Frontier tournament, but at the national tournament as well.
Yeah, I think so. And Western and Rocky both, I think both those teams have a chance to, make some noise as well.
Agreed.
It depends. I know LC is an awful good ball club. If one of them end up going there, and of course you get down into the California schools, that those schools they got some tough competition down there as well.
Yep.
But we just play this tough competition every week, and I think that's a big asset for our teams going into those pods. Plus, Paul, you got to realize that we beat each other up playing each other three times, and it's kind of nice when you go play somebody that doesn't know you.
Yeah, and honestly, if you go to either of those locations, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have teams that you're going to know and that you have played. When you talk about Westmont and LC, especially LC this year, the Warriors played, if not everybody in conference, really close. And
Yeah.
and I believe they actually beat everybody in conference, but all the games were really close. The Frontier schools ran with their old rival in LC awfully well, but LC, I believe, did beat everyone they played. And then, like I say, you go down to Westmont, and you're going to be dealing with possibly some of the schools that the ladies did see down to the Cactus Classic. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes, especially if it is teams that they have played previously, how much that helps or doesn't help. Because I think, you talk about the idea of playing a team the first time. When we get away from Carroll and look at Western, I think Brindley Fitzgerald is as tough a tough a matchup. She's a nightmare. If you can watch her on film, but if you're trying to body up and play her for the first time, I think she is one of those players that is going to surprise you with how physical she is, how fast she is, how good she is. And I think that is somebody that really does help out Western if it is a first round game.
Yeah, I do too, and I mean I as far as the player of the year, I think in the Frontier, I think you got to look at her and Pickens, and I think it's awful close, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say which way I'm going to go. I might after the tournament, but I just think they're both right neck and neck as far as what they bring to the table for each of their teams.
Yeah, and it's one of those where I think there are some other good arguments, but I think those two are at the top of the pile, and certainly show how good this conference is. They both, they're not one trick ponies. And there have been years past where that was kind of the case. You look at both of them on the defensive side of the ball, is something you really don't focus on a whole lot as a general person watching the game, but both are so good defensively. They're so active. They have such good hands. And then, their number of assists, the ability to not only score with the basketball, but also find others. They're both extremely dangerous and incredibly good players to watch play the game.
All right, Paul. This week, the games, of course, only one day. Saturday, those games will start at 2 and 4 everywhere.
Yep.
It'll be Tech at
Nope. Just,
Northern
yep. There you go. Sorry. My apologies. I was losing my mind. Go ahead, Bobby.
again.
Uh,
Tech at Northern, Rockies at Western, and Providence is at Carroll. So, what do you see on the women's side at that Tech Northern game?
I think that it'll be interesting because they're both well coached. This is a game that, well, none of them on the women's side really mean much when it boils down to it, other than momentum going to the tournament. And I
Yep.
think all the coaches will use that as their spark plug. This is, if we can get a win here today, especially for Tech Northern, for Coach Moe, if he can get a win to start here, then that's good momentum for them going into the tournament. And I think that is front and center what's important for all coaches this weekend, but especially for Northern and for Montana Tech.
All right, Rocky and Western. I think this one is basically what you said. It's just a momentum builder going into the tournament for whoever wins this game.
Yeah, it certainly felt like schedule wise, by the time it got to this, there would be a lot more on the table for both. But the fact that, it isn't going to mean anything. Nothing's going to change going into the tournament. I would be very interested to know how both head coaches and Coach Keller and how Coach Woolley approached this game. If it's any different than normal, or if you do, kind of get after it normally.
In our last one, Providence and Carroll.
both of us both of us were just in awe of Coach Moe, like rearranging his background to make sure he looks okay. That was so amazing. I totally lost my train of thought. I'm like, I'm gonna hire him to come clean my house.
All right, Providence and Carroll, and then we'll get to Coach.
I think that's another. It's just momentum. I think Providence, if they could knock off Carroll, that's huge momentum, and I think it means a whole lot more for them. And I just don't see Carroll taking their foot off the pedal. They're playing way too well right now. Not only in their starters, but also going to the bench. I think they will go to the bench maybe a little bit more than they have here the last few, but I think they'll continue to keep the gas pedal firmly on the floor and try and keep as much momentum as possible going into this, in not only the Frontier Conference tournament, but into that pod in the national tournament.
All right, we got Coach Mouat on there. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing all right. Can you guys hear me okay?
I got you, brother. Is your background, is it okay? Are you happy with
my office is a mess
behind you?
It's a mess.
Well, I'll always tell you this, and you're one of my favorite people in the world. I love you to death, and this has been, from a friend's perspective, I'm watching from a long way away, but this has been a tough year for the Skylights, and talk about what it means coming into this final week, and like we say, trying to grab some momentum, getting ready for the tournament.
Yeah, that's really it. Just want to play your best game in the end. Put a 40-minute effort together. That's kind of where we struggled, I think, in many ways, is putting the full 40 together. We'll play. I think last weekend at Rocky, we didn't play very well the first 15, and I thought the last 25 we played pretty well. And then the next one at Western, we played a good 25 and finished the last 15 horribly. So I think it's just about consistency and maturity and limiting your mistakes. So we definitely want to put our best foot forward though in this last game heading into the tournament.
That and especially with you obviously know what it takes to win in this conference at a consistent level. That idea of a full 40 minutes, you just can't get away with winning ball games that aren't 40 minutes efforts anymore. There might have been a time you could get away with that, but the level of play, the level of coaching in this conference right now, you had better be ready for 40 minutes or you're just not going to get wins.
Yeah, the league's too good. We're the number one ranked league in the country in RPI and strength of schedule, and I think our teams prove that every night out. It's just a tough league. Good players, good coaches, the whole thing.
When you look at that as far as strength of schedule and RPI, you're our rater. You're the guy that has kind of control as far as the Frontier Conference goes. How does that give us the take on that? You obviously know this conference, where we're at level, locally, but also on the national level. Talk about the rating side of this thing and what makes it difficult, especially when teams are beating each other up 3 times.
I think that's the hardest thing, is that we do play each other 3 times. We're kind of almost laughed at for doing that. In all reality, the Raiders are like, you guys are crazy. Why do you do that? It hurts you. And I think in the end, if you're looking at it this year, we have a clear top 3. Then I think we have, Providence and Tech, and then us, finally at the bottom. But those top 3, it's just been a matter of who's going to be 1, 2, 3. I think all 3 of them are locked in for the national tournament, and expect them to do well there. And I think it's one of those things when you get out of this league and you get to the national tournament and finally get to play somebody else, I think it's a breath of fresh air. I know that's how it felt when my teams were able to go. We looked forward to just playing somebody else. Let's not play Carroll, Rocky, Western, Providence, Tech a 4th, 5th, 7,000th time. I think it's just tough.
That we had talked about it before you got on, that idea of we felt pretty good about Western and as far as Rocky going, you feel like it's a pretty good lock for them to get to the next level and at least get an invitation to a pod.
I think they're all locks. In fact, I think if Providence could string a couple together, they'd get a look. Western got in last year at 14 and 13, and so it's all about playing somebody outside the league. You gotta have some nationally ranked wins. That's the first question that comes up with the Raiders is what's their best win. Okay, and so if you don't have a schedule that provides a top 25 team or 2, 3, you look at Carroll's schedule, they probably have the toughest schedule in the country, and a lot of those games were on the road. Yeah. And so they did pick up a few losses, but they got the respect of everybody by going out and playing, and then they did pick up enough of those wins that it's solidified them pretty good right off the bat. So I think you gotta play people. I mean, you just have to. You don't have to play. I think their schedule is brutal, but having the opportunity in Phoenix to play some of those teams and things like that, you just have to find ways to play nationally ranked teams outside your league.
And that's, like you just said, the importance of that Cactus Classic probably can't be stated enough, especially for us here in the Frontier Conference.
Yeah, I think getting good teams there is huge.
Is there any other opportunity, any chance for something along that line elsewhere? So it isn't just the only one, maybe one that is up in the Pacific Northwest. If we can get some other teams together, I would have to assume those conversations have to be had, but whether they'll stick to the wall or not is the question.
Well, we tried to organize one with the North Star Conference, Dickinson State and Valley City State and some of those guys. And it's just the problem with our league is we need to pick up 15 non-conference games because, or 13, I'm sorry, because we cut our schedule down to 28. So we got 13 games to go find. So we all need games. But some of these leagues, like the Cascade Conference, they only need a few. And so cutting it down to 28, that just takes away more opportunities. Same thing with the Mid-South Conference and some of the out that way. They just don't need that many games. So until we add more teams to our league, it's really just where we're at.
Well, from a coach's perspective and a Frontier Conference fan, what's your take on the conference tournament going back under one roof?
Love it. I love it. I think it's great. It gives, like my team, for example, my kids deserve an opportunity to be in a tournament atmosphere. And hopefully we can go in and play well. But I think every kid in college deserves an opportunity to be in a tournament. And I think having men and women there, I know our girls like cheering on our guys and vice versa. I like to watch all the teams, just because as a Raider, I can take that knowledge to our last meetings and say, hey, here's who looked really good in the tournament and kind of talk about those things. So I think it's great. I think the fact that they put the thing together, it's just great for Montana. It's great for our league.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we'd ever see it again. Obviously, it's been a long time. We're working at 15 years, something like that, since we were under one roof, and I wasn't sure we would ever get the luxury of seeing it again.
Yeah, it's been a bit since it was in Butte, so it'll be awesome. I know Coach Himmelberg and those guys over there just did a ton of work to get that thing put together. So it'll be organized. They'll handle it professionally and do a really good job with it.
What do you got for him, Bobby?
Well, I'll just touch a little bit more on that on the tournament, Coach. It's in the past we kind of lacked attendance and some of that, but there was a lot of those times when we had Westminster and LC playing in the championship and no Montana schools in that championship. So nobody showed up, but I think, especially right in the middle of some high school tournaments, I think it's going to draw some interest, and I just think it's going to be a great tournament. I'm hoping that we get a good turnout for fans to cheer the fans on, but I think that's going to be a great event happening there in Great Falls.
Yeah, I do too. And there were times, when it was Westminster and LC in that last game, and it was, good for them. I guess they made the championship, but for the 50 to 100 people that were there, it just wasn't great. I think when you're looking at 6 Montana teams, they're all going to have fans there, and I think that's going to be really exciting for the teams that are able to play and move on.
Yeah, and I think, just looking at the Rocky games here at home this year, I think we have had better attendance than I have seen probably maybe ever in 14 years. I just think all the teams have really followed well this year.
Yeah, I think they will. And our guys are pretty good. I think that, we've got a pretty good home following here, and, they've still been pretty good to us despite a tough year. We've got a lot of fans. So I think we'll see a lot of Havre people in Great Falls. I like the fact that it's there. It's only 2 hours for us, any place we'd have to go for a single game, road game in the tournament would be a lot farther than that. So it'll be nice.
The other thing I want to applaud you for, Moe, is obviously Hoops for a Cause. It has done such incredible good since that very first year for the Thatcher family here in the mining city. Certainly, people came through with great donations and a lot of love here recently for Paige Holmes and her husband and their baby. That has left an incredible mark through the Frontier Conference family. Where's your total? That you have, do you know what your dollar total is that has been donated and helped as far as Hoops for a Cause here for the 6 years?
Well, I think with the money that came in for Paige Holmes, or Paige Paffhausen, I should say, I think with that money that came in, we're just a touch under 80,000 for 6 years.
That's amazing.
That was kind of my estimate, because I don't have exact numbers on all of them. but I think that's about where we're at. It's just under 80,000. So, yeah, we were able to do a little bit to help them. Maybe it'll get them some hotel rooms, maybe some meals. Who knows? I mean, I can't imagine the expenses that they've already ran into just with all the surgeries and everything else she's gone through. But I was able to talk to her in Dillon, so that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, and again, it just kudos. I mean, none of that happens without you, and that other assistant of yours that might have some Butte ties. Through the years, the good you have done with that program it's been pretty darn incredible. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. It's really a league thing, though. The first thing I did is make calls, and
Yep.
our coaches were on board, and they not only have been on board to say they'll help, they show up. They show up.
Yeah.
They bring players, they bring gear, they do what they can, and it's always hard in the summertime. But I think with the 3-on-3 this year, we found maybe a new avenue that we want to continue to pursue. The one-day camp was always fun, but geez, I mean, at one of them, I think we had 3 kids at one session or something. And I got 25 workers there. It's like, what are we going to do with these guys?
Yeah.
So I think the 3-on-3, we kind of knew who was coming in advance. We knew how many teams we had, and so I think that's the route to go.
Well, again, it's done an incredible amount of good, and we always talk about the Frontier family, and it certainly shows in those moments. That's for sure.
Yeah, our coaches, our players, we got help from the football guys. Everybody's been sending the football helmets the last couple of years, and then the Bobcats and Grizzlies helped out. So it's just kind of evolved, and I guess each year we kind of try to find something else that we can do to just generate a few more bucks for the kids. And this year, Jet and Jana, those are, one of them was a wrestler here. I mean, it was close to home.
Well, Moe, do you have anything, Bobby, before we cut him free?
No, I just want to thank you for coming on, Coach. And I don't know if you know it or not, but Jordan had a baby boy this morning.
Oh, she did? I did not know.
Yep, yeah, she did. So
I knew it was close.
So Grandpa Bursama's got a starting 5 now. So
that's good. I'll take them. Take them all. Yeah, Jordan was a special one. She was really a great kid, good player, all that. But to this day, still just an important person. And that's I guess that's where especially in a hard year, you get, I guess, some deeper appreciation for the relationships and other things beyond the wins and losses. I mean, we know where we're at right now, what we got to do, but hearing from my former players or somebody like Jordan has a baby, those are big things. They're pretty cool. So yeah, I'll have to give her a shout and give her some grief.
All right. Thanks, Coach. And I'll see you at the tournament.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yep.
Head coach Chris Mouat from the Skylines of MSU Northern. Again, he's just part of that family. I've known him forever. He's a tremendous coach. I think he's a great leader, and he's having a tough year, and you worry about him. I mean, you worry about him, mentally and physically, but if anybody can turn the ship around, it's certainly Chris Mouat.
Yeah, and he's he's very important to this league, being the Raider, Paul. That's just a huge thing, and I talked to him here at Rocky this past week, and they played very well. His team played very well. The first time he was here, he only had 8 players. He had a full squad this week, and he did. They played very well, I thought. And one thing that he said that really stood out to me, and he didn't mention it today, but was one nice thing for him being a Raider at the tournament is he can sit there and watch all the teams play, at one time in one facility under the same conditions, and it just helps him in his rating of the tournament. So, all right, Mr. Panisco, how about men's basketball? You got that one figured out?
Man, no, good gravy. We know one thing, that Montana Tech will be the number 1 seed. Then from there, just go ahead and throw the cards in the air and figure out where we go. We have 2 teams right now tied for second currently, Providence and Northern. Northern does have, hold on, let me get my notes. All right. So let's see. Providence has the tiebreaker with Northern. Right. So no matter what happens there, Providence does have the tiebreaker. In our 3 games this week, Providence at Carroll. Providence won both of those matchups so far. Tech is at Northern. They're 1-1. The home team has won both of those. And then Rocky at Western is 1-1 so far. And the same thing goes. The home team has won both of those contests. We started the season off talking about how good the teams were at home. Remember those first 2 games? The home team won all of them. On the season, so far we've had 42 home games, 42 games, I should say, across the Frontier Conference, and the home team has won 30 of them on the men's side. The road team has won 12 games, and that's it so far there. So it's crazy. You've got Northern Providence, like I say, tied for second currently. Carroll, then Western, and then Rocky. If things shake out, we could possibly have a 4-team tie for second place, which is just bonkers. It's crazy to me.
And you got the tiebreaker. You got the tiebreaker all figured out.
I talked to the commish earlier this morning. I called Paulson, and then I actually talked to Wally Felt as well, just to back that up a little bit. The tiebreaker isn't that bad. If there is a 3-team tie or a 4-team tie, they would take. If it's a 3-team tie, they would take those 3 schools and look at the records between those 3 schools. If one team has a better record, they would be the highest seed. They would be your number 2 team. Then if they would take the 2 teams left and just go on their head-to-head, whoever has a higher record would then be next. So there is only one good thing about everybody playing everybody 3 times is it does make tiebreakers really easy.
Yeah.
And that is the only good thing about teams playing everybody 3 times. So yeah, the idea that we could have a 3-team tie, we could possibly have a 4-team tie is pretty bonkers. And it wouldn't take much for it to be a 4-team tie, to be completely honest.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all, to be honest with you.
No.
Get back to your thing about the home team wins. So does that mean that nobody's going to win at the conference tournament because it's a neutral site, or what?
I'll tell you,
what are you saying?
I think it is one. If we went back to the host team like a year ago, I don't think any road team would win. I think the host team would win every game to the championship, and that'd be it. I think we would see some good ball games, but home court is huge this year. And with a neutral site, this feels like one that you could run 5-10 times and you would have some really different outcomes. So I think this does benefit your lower seeds. I think Tech does come in the favorite. I think Tech is playing really good right now. And I think they are the favorite to win this thing. But that said, I mean, you've seen enough of this conference this year. Are you going to count Rocky out of any games? Are you going to count Western out of any games? I am certainly not going to. I don't care what their record looks like.
No, I think it's this, and it's nice having it at a neutral site because I think this could be one of the best tournaments the men could have possibly had in the last several years. I mean, just from top to bottom, I like you say, I wouldn't count anybody out. I mean, to be honest with you, it could be Rocky and Providence playing, or Rocky and Carroll playing for the championship as far as the standings go. You just don't know.
No, and it sounds like, it sounds like us just sitting here trying to push the tournament, but I'm telling you, this year is going to be special. I think the games this year are going to be all hard fought. I think, the teams are battling right now. Obviously, Tech will have a first round bye. The other teams are battling for that second place and a first round bye as well. And I think that could be a big factor. That being that you'd only have to play 2 games in 2 days as opposed to 3 games in 3 days. And especially with how hard these teams are going to get after it, I think that could be a big factor, having that extra day off and only playing 2 games. And that might be really, in my opinion, one of the only things that does affect it. Otherwise, I think top to bottom, this men's tournament is going to be just absolutely electric, and we're going to see some good teams and some really good games.
And with that, we're going to bring head coach Mike Larsen in from the Montana Western Bulldogs. How you doing, Coach?
I can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
You got us, Coach?
Coach Larsen, you there?
Looks like trying to get Coach Larsen his audio to get working on his end. We'll see where we're at.
There we go. I think I got you now.
There we go. We good, Coach?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe it's because you're sitting on the floor. Maybe if we put you at a desk.
I'm actually home at my house because I've been sick for about 2 days and I'm just hiding at my house. I'm in my room. Doors locked.
I'm sorry you don't feel good. That's not the best timing by any stretch. Door is now locked.
Hey, you wonder what a life of a basketball coach is with the 3 kids and a wife. Like, it's just, you got to just
Yeah.
battle through it.
That's it. Hey, Coach, we were just talking about how good this conference is. And we started the season talking about how the parity this year is insane, where from the top to the bottom, the men's side of the Frontier Conference is just incredibly close from top to bottom. How is it from your perspective when you look at how good all the teams are, where your team fits into this? Talk about how conference has gone thus far for the Bulldogs.
Well, I think that there's a clear favorite. Montana Tech's just, I think, a little bit above the rest of us as far as just what they're able to do with their length and athleticism. But then when you look, the rest of us, 2 through 6, I feel like it's the most balanced I think it's ever been in the 5 years that I've been here. So gives us a lot of confidence, obviously, as a program to, obviously we had a rough stretch and we lost some games, but just keep weathering the storm and getting better. And, I think everybody's got talent. Everybody's got a couple weaknesses within their rosters that, obviously we'll try to go get through recruiting. But right where we're at right now, I feel like it's, like you said, it's pretty balanced and everybody's got a shot down the stretch.
You have to be happy with where you're at in that respect. Like you say, that you went through a lull. It feels like everybody has gone through a lull. The season is so long. You're going to. That's just fact. But you have turned an incredible corner. Winning some really hard fought games here down the line, and if you pile in one more here before we go to the tournament, you've got a full head of steam heading into Great Falls.
Yeah, I know. That's what I told them yesterday or Saturday night is let's find a way to finish strong and be running into the conference tournament and not backpedaling. And this shows a lot of credit to our team. Thought we have some really, really high character guys that for whatever reason, as a basketball coach, sometimes you don't know, but they just found ways to keep getting better and not allow themselves to get down or get discouraged because we weren't playing very good. Just to be quite frank with you, we were making a lot of mistakes and a lot of silly mistakes, and it was just getting back to the basics and just keep doing what we're supposed to do. And I know I'm, sometimes they think I'm crazy, but like I try to be as right as I can on the floor and help them out. And I felt like just as collectively, our team really started to buy into, we have a good team. Look who we beat. We beat Montana Tech. We beat everybody in the league this year for the first time since I've been here as a head coach. So obviously confidence is through the roof as far as what we can do come conference tournament time.
Was there a light switch moment? Was there a moment where like you got them in the locker room and you went, "Oh, they've got it. Like they finally we're on the same page here." Do you remember that moment at all?
Well, I think we had lost 5 in a row, and we came into practice that next week, and I normally give them Monday off, and I just said, nope, we're practicing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, game Thursday, practice Friday, game Saturday. I'll give them Sunday off. And we came in that Monday, and they were ready. They wanted to be pushed. They wanted to be coached. I saw so much just positive energy where we've kind of been reeling a little bit and hadn't seen much of that. So when I saw that, I was like, hey, let's go. And then we ended up we lost that Thursday game, but then we were able to win on Saturday and then, kind of kept it rolling from there.
Do you attribute that? Is that like floor leadership? Is that your seniors? Is that guys that you think, or is that just kind of an overall mentality where they came in and went, all right, let's lace it up and go?
Well, I think we talk about it a lot. We just talk about it's next day, next play, you got to be perfect that day. And we weren't. I told them after every game, like, guys, we're losing by 4, 6, 8, 10, whatever it is, and we've got 17 turnovers, 13 turnovers. We're shooting 31% from the field, and we're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. So obviously, we need to get back to refocusing on what we can do and what we do, and be unselfish and move the ball and play hard defensively and get out in transition. And then, once they kind of bought into it, and whether it was my seniors that I've got, obviously Tanner Haverfield I've had for 5 years. So I don't have to say much when it comes to leadership. He usually takes care of it himself, but they all bought in, we're starting random lineups. We're not, or 2 of our best, quote unquote, best players, Brenton Woods, point guard, and Jamal Stevenson. They're both coming off the bench. Jock's a senior. He's coming off the bench. we're just trying to figure out what was working best. And, we went with toughness, and that's kind of got us moving forward.
And that was going to be my next question is normally, we're used to seeing those lineup changes at the beginning of the season. Maybe those first couple games in the Frontier where, it's those 2 games in December and then we, go through all the games in December and get ready for the real meat and potatoes of the conference. And that seems to be where, lineups are set. But watching your games recently, the idea of all that shuffling, is that all as it was the idea of trying to find some balance, try and find personality or what was going to work on the floor?
I just wanted tough guys. I just wanted, when I said jump, they jump. When the ball rolls on the floor, we go get every one of them. And we went with the guys that I thought were just literally the toughest guys, not basketball guys necessarily, not the best talent we have. But they give us a little bit of a punch right out of the gates. And, we go play at Providence. I think there was 7 loose balls in the first 5 minutes of that game, and we got every single one of them. We were the first one to the floor every single time, and it just set the tone to keep rolling forward. And we did the same thing against Northern. We had a couple of good ones there too.
That we talk about this conference and toughness an awful lot, and that might be one of the finer points we've seen put on it. That stuff is necessary. This conference is so physical, and that you get after it in all aspects. But the idea of making that a calling card of who you're putting on the floor, that says an awful lot about your program, but also about what it takes to win in this conference.
Well, I think the biggest thing for this league is, the coaches they're great. You have very few blowouts that, you look at other leagues across the country and there's teams getting beat by 30 and 40 and 50. It's like, we win by 4, and I'm like, this is the best day ever. But when you look at 4, 6, 8 point games, that's a 1 or 2 possession, swing throughout the game. So we thought toughness was going to be the biggest thing that we could kind of hang our hat on down the stretch. And, that's our goal as we move forward.
As we get ready to play the conference tournaments under one roof, I guess give me your take on that first and foremost. Your 5 years has been, the top team's host. What's your opinion about neutral site?
I think it's exciting for the players, which is the most important thing. What I feel is when we're playing each other for the 4th time. So it's hard to process how many things that you have to adjust and change when you played somebody 4 times in 1 year. So for them to be able to play on a neutral site in a cool venue that gives us a different feel, hopefully it gives us something different, something unique, and our guys can remember it and they're like, hey, we made a run in the conference tournament playing the first time at a neutral site. So good for them, and I'm excited to do it and see what it looks like and see what the turnout is, and obviously not having to play no offense, not having to play at Montana Tech for the conference tournament would be awesome, because that was really hard last year when we had to do that. So we'll take whatever we can get from that.
I'm not gonna lie, it was an incredible game, and we had a little fun. It was a little packed though, that's for sure. Now hold on a second. You can't throw shade that way, because we've all had to play in front of the dog pound. We've all been down there, and that is not an easy joint to try and win a ball game.
Well, I think that's what makes the Frontier so special, is it's for a small college basketball conference. There is a home court advantage like you've never seen at every single institution. And to me, that's what makes a powerful conference. There's no easy games. There's no neutral sites when you're on the road. It is 100% against you crowd, and you've got to come together as a team and be that unit and that family that we try to talk about.
On that token, last year when Tech went to Texas and we're down there talking to, the faculty and the administrators in the Texas facility, and they were watching video of the Tech Carroll game, and they didn't care about the game or anything else. They were just stunned by the crowd. They could not believe the crowds we get in the Frontier Conference. And they just never let it go. They didn't care about the game at all. And they even said, they're like, we're trying to scout. And then all of a sudden we would just sit and watch the crowd, people just don't, we might take for granted a little bit what we have, but people around the country aren't used to the crowds and the energy we get in our gyms.
Yeah, it's what makes the Frontier Conference the Frontier Conference. And I think that's, it's by far one of the best NAIA conferences in the country, and I'm glad that I'm a part of it on some days, and there's some days that I'm
not. I like your honesty. What do you got, Bobby?
Well, Coach, I think I told you last year, the year before, you've done a great job down there at Western. bringing that program back, and it shows this year. But you know, you bring up the loose balls, the 50-50 balls. I wish there was a stat on that because I don't think people really realize how important those 50-50 balls are in an outcome of a ball game.
Yeah, I mean I do too. I really wish we did because that's something that we try to keep an eye on. I usually try to clip them after games if there's charges or loose balls or things like that. We try to watch them, but just to know over the course of the year who's getting them because I mean I don't know how many games we've lost by 4 points and then you go back and watch and there's a rebound that went to the corner that we didn't chase or there was a ball that was rolling we could have dove on and the mentality is more importantly than the actual physically getting the ball. It's just first one to the floor. Be that first guy to get the ball, and then hopefully you got 4 other teammates that'll go pick him up and celebrate in his willingness to sacrifice his body. Because as a guy that played basketball for a long time, my hips and I still got floor burns and scars from diving on the floor. So I do give a lot of appreciation for guys that sacrifice their body for the team.
Well, Coach, in the 5 years you've been here, I think this is probably the most physical that I've seen season that I've seen. You know, maybe ever from top to bottom is how physical all the teams are this year. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, nature of the game, nature of recruiting. I think everybody just keeps getting bigger and better. And in a year where Carroll is not they don't have those power guys that they used to have. They're still just out rebounding people and just playing so hard and so aggressive. And I just don't know if there's anybody in the league that, as a coach, when you sit there and scout, you say, "Oh, I don't know how we're going to stop them," or "I don't know how we're going to rebound," or it's just a natural thing as a coach, and that's not a good feeling. But it is a good feeling at the end of the game when you look at the rebounds and we've won the rebounding battle or we've won the 50-50 ball battle and been able to overcome some of those adversities.
All right. Well, Coach, want to thank you for coming on. We appreciate you taking your time. Get well.
Yeah, feel better.
I'm going to say good luck in the tournament. I can't already say good luck Saturday night, but or Saturday afternoon. But I will say good luck in the tournament. How's that sound?
I appreciate that, and we look forward to having everyone at Four Seasons in that tournament. It'll be fun for everybody involved.
There you go, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Get well.
Will do.
Man, he just doesn't look healthy.
No, geez, I
As
just
I'm
feel
popping
sorry.
cough drops. Sorry.
Yeah, it's tough, when people just don't realize how much time these coaches put in.
No.
You see them at a game or you see them at practice, but I'll guarantee you what, they're all watching film, until who
Yep.
knows when, and you go home and, the kids might be crabby or whatever, and you just don't get much sleep. But yeah, I just don't think people realize how much time the coaches put in the Frontier Conference, and it shows. That has a lot to do with, we talk about how good this conference is, Paul, but that has a lot to do with the coaching.
Oh, it is. I mean, you have to keep up. You have to put in the time, not only watching, scouting yourself, scouting your opponent, but, scouting the state, scouting what's out there as far as recruits. The time they put in is staggering. And I hope people realize it. It's one of those where I feel like I have a good idea and I know I don't either. It's just the amount of time they put in is just incredible. And we're lucky. I mean, our Frontier Conference coaches are just outstanding people and great leaders. It is. I mean, we're a family, and obviously we're going to have beef with some of our family, but for the most part, we get along, and there's a good appreciation there.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, Paul, the players of the week. We talked about Brindley Fitzgerald a little bit. She is the female player of the week.
Shocker.
Her fourth game that she has scored over 30 points
That's
this season.
crazy.
It's just she's just an all-around player. Just does a great job. And I'll let you talk about the men's player.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Belich, Belly, the Frontier Conference Player of the Week, and I think that the biggest thing for Belly is just consistency. I mean, he comes into every game, everybody's going, we need to stop number 10. Like, we cannot let Belly get his, and he gets them. He's so smooth. He's making such great decisions this year. For lack of a better way to put it, it feels like the game has slowed down for him this year. And he gets his shot off quickly. He's making high percentage shots. He's playing great on the defensive side. Belic, he was the Frontier Conference. What was it? The preseason Player of the Year. And he's packed that torch all year, man. He has just been so good. Averaging like 19 points a game until conference, and in conference games he's at like 26 points a game. He's had an outstanding year, and really this is coming off a year after Sindhu Diallo graduated last year, and Belly is putting in one of the best years of recent memory. I mean, it just puts it together each and every year, or each and every game, excuse me.
And I think his defense is probably the biggest improvement from last year.
Yep.
I think he was always a shooter, always great elevation on his jump shot. I don't know how anybody could get up high enough to block it, but I think his defense is where he's really improved this year from last year.
Yep. Yeah, and he has a great surrounding cast, and he'll give up the ball, and that's another part that's really dangerous. Is this Tech team is deep. If he isn't going to shoot, he'll find somebody that is going to have an open shot, and they'll put it down. I was really happy for Belic. Just another great stretch. I mean, it just absolute consistency, and certainly the heartbeat of that Montana Tech team.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this Frontier Conference tournament and wrap us up for the day. How's that?
All right, my man, you got it. Where do you want to go?
Well, we're going to start with the women. We pretty much got that figured out. I think anyway. It looks like on Sunday it's going to be Providence and Tech. That at 1 o'clock, and then at 3 o'clock it's going to be Rocky taking on Northern.
Yep.
And then of course Carroll's going to be the number 1. Western will be the number 2. Carroll will take on the lowest remaining seed, and Western will take on the highest remaining seed after those Sunday games. And those games, game time there will also be at 1 and 3 for the women's side. And then the championship game for the women will be at 5 o'clock. And I said
on
what
Tuesday,
the women
correct?
or Tuesday, yes.
Yep.
I said what the women are going to be. I'll let you throw them in out there. How's that?
So the men's side, you look at. Oh yeah, sure. Let me try and guess who the. I don't even know who the 2 seed's going to be, Bob.
Had you for a second.
Providence having the tiebreaker over Northern is a big deal. They're both, and I think Northern's playing outstanding. At home especially. So that's the other big one. I think Providence is at Carroll. They've won both games against Carroll. I think Carroll's playing really good right now. I don't know why. I think I still see Providence getting the 2 seed for some reason. Even though I'm not sure they're playing basketball as the second best team currently.
Well, I don't know who is, Paul. I don't know how you pick the second best team, to be honest with you at this point.
After watching Carroll, I'd be hard pressed to believe it's not Carroll. Northern runs a little hot and cold at home and on the road. Northern has 2 wins on the road. They have 4 losses on the road. The only team with more than 2 wins on the road this year is Tech. Tech has wins at Providence, at Western, and at Rocky. Northern, Providence, Carroll, and Western all have 2 wins on the road, and Rocky has 1 win on the road in conference. Like I say, winning on the road has been so hard for teams this year. Yeah. So these last games, I mean, if that holds true, if the home team holds, if Carroll beats Providence, that'll drop them. If Northern holds home against Tech, that'd move them to the 2 seed. And then if Western holds against Rocky, that would put them in that kind of that log jam as well. So it's the men's side. This tournament, I think, could just be incredible. I think every game could go right down to the wire, and obviously Northern will be involved, so they'll have at least 3 or 4 overtime games in in a minimum 1 game.
Yeah, I don't know what we had. What was that, 2 weeks ago? And I counted 10 overtimes, I think.
Something like that.
I don't know if we've had any more since then or not.
Northern's been involved in what, 4 of the 10?
I believe so. Yeah. Well, yeah.
One triple overtime, 2 double
5 of the
overtime.
10
Oh, there you
because
go.
we went Rocky and Northern went 3 at Rocky and 2 at Northern, I believe. I think something like that.
Oh,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's unbelievable the parity in the conference this year. So no, it's going to be a good one, boy. If you fans out there, if you want to watch some good basketball, Four Seasons Arena,
Yeah.
it's going to be good. It starts on a Sunday, February 26th. 4 games that day. 4 games on Monday the 27th, and then the 2 championship games on Tuesday the 28th. And then I believe on Thursday you jump into a high school tournament at Four Seasons as well. So
Yeah.
uh, Great Falls is going to get treated some great basketball this year. I just I want to take a little bit of time and thank Providence, Doug Hashley, Bill Heimelberg, and
Yep.
J.C. Isaacson, Jim Sargent. I've had some conversations with some of them, and gosh, they've just done a great job organizing this tournament, and it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
not easy to do, and they all got a job that they have to do besides this tournament. So it's going
Yep.
to be fun, folks. Want to watch some good basketball? Get up there Four Seasons and get in there and make some noise. And I really look for great fan support. And to be honest with you, Paul, I look for a lot of students to travel to this tournament that aren't playing from those respective schools.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I mean, like I say, it's so much of a science experiment. We talk about the tournament when it was in Butte like it was last year, but that was 15 years ago. So
Yeah.
this is a new, certainly something new, and hopefully all the work that the crew up in Great Falls and in Providence has put together will turn it into a successful campaign, and it's something that will continue and maybe move. We'll just see how everything shakes out. But I think it will benefit basketball fans this year on the men's side, especially because of a neutral site. If it was on the top seeds floor, you'd have packed gyms, and I think the top seeds would run the building. But at a neutral site, I think all that gets thrown away.
Yep. Yep. It's going to be a good one.
That it
Going
is.
to be a good one. Well, Paul, if you don't have anything else, I'll let you wrap us up for the day.
I do not, my man. So for Bob Ritterod, I'm Paul Panisco. Thanks for joining us here at the Frontier Conference Montana Sportscast. And until next time, take care.
And I'd like to thank our guests that come on the show and talk about Montana high school sports. Without them, this show would not be possible. And once again, if you like this podcast, please click on the subscribe button below to get alerts when we have up a new podcast.